This is the Seek Outside crew. We are somewhere between Chicken, Alaska and Fairbanks, Alaska, and somewhere north of Tok. We're on a caribou hunt, fly-in caribou hunt. We've all got our animals down. We're waiting for pickup at some point. Might happen today, might not. Here with us today, we have Owen, Cindy Lou Who. We have Jeff, the Seek Outside physical therapist. We're getting old enough that we bring our own physical therapist on hunts now. You know, we got Nathan. You know, pretty soon we're going to be bringing chiropractors and the whole crew.
Occupational therapist.
Exactly.
Maybe a psychiatrist. I think we could have used one on this trip.
Yeah, exactly. We're all ecstatic over the animals that we got. We are. I mean, I'm surprised you are. Not that yours wasn't nice, but we thought you were waiting for Boone and Crockett.
I didn't want a Boone and Crockett. I just wanted a really good hunt and a really good bull, and I'm happy with him. He's got everything you could want. I mean, he's got double shovel and good tops and back scratchers, and he's real pretty. He's got a white nose.
He's like Rudolph the White-Nosed Reindeer.
I know. Yeah. My kids are it's gonna take some explaining. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I'm not sure how I'm gonna explain this to them.
Yeah. Here's Rudolph. We've seen a few wolves.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate to not have any run-ins with bears.
Yet.
So far. We're all really happy that we got our animals done yesterday, because today we're looking around at the hills and we're like, wow, we're not seeing a whole lot going on today.
Yeah, seen about 6 today, I think, total.
And so far on the trip, we've probably seen
1,000,
1,200.
Yeah, something like
bunch.
That. Yep.
I mean, I've lost count of the herds of 30 to 75 that we've seen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they've been all over. I keep messing up and calling them elk, you know. But I did name my bull Peekaboo Pete, so I'm pretty happy with my bull. He's real chocolatey. He's not a double shovel. You two got double shovels, you know.
Yeah, for my bull, you know, the stalk really made it for me. It's the longest I've been on my belly. And at times I was going down the hill backwards and sideways and then sometimes forward. So it really made it for me. And I don't have a giant by any means, but the closer I got to him, the more I liked him.
Yeah,
and so
that's almost exactly what happened to me.
That's a big deal, yeah.
Well, we got into the first day we hunted, second day we were here, we got into some, we put a really good stalk on some, and then we blew it. You know, it was really, really weathery, but me, Owen, and Nathan, we got 75 yards. It might have been 50. They weren't even worth ranging at that point. And it was a real good herd, but they were all kind of bunched up, and there wasn't really any obvious way to shoot them. They weren't in a good angle, and we tried to get in a better spot, and somehow they winded us or something, and they were gone.
Yeah, that was the second stalk that I put on those yesterday. Jeff and I put a stalk on them early, and they went up the ridge instead of down. If they'd come down out of the fog, it would have been a perfect setup. And then we blew that one. And one of the reasons that I was really happy with that bull is because it was the same group that we blew 2 stalks on yesterday. So it's like 3rd time's the charm.
Yep. And then, with Owen had a great group, and he put a good stalk on his.
He was, they were about, what, 700 yards?
Yeah.
And closed in to 280 on him, just walking straight at him, real careful, real slow, real low, and, you know, he was bedded down and laying there forever and ever, and Kevin was behind me about a couple 100 yards, and I was like, man, I'm gonna have to wait the whole time for the whole herd to get up.
You were right at the edge of bear brush. I was giving you bear protection.
Yeah.
Or bear notification.
At one point I was laying down and thinking to myself, I was like, well, I've been laying here a long time. I'm pretty good bait. So, but Kevin moved a little bit, and they finally stood up, and I got an opportunity and got him down, and was super happy with him. He's a good bull.
Well, it's funny because you were there on those.
Yep.
And I saw them all. They all bedded, and I was like, son of a gun, man. Owen's gonna have to wait here 3 hours for these things to stand up. And you guys were stalking some on the other side of the valley, and all of a sudden that group you were stalking, they started to peel off, and they were getting spooked, and they started coming toward me, and I ranged them at one point, and they were like 680, and I was like, man, maybe I could move and get Owens to stand up and get closer to these over here, and maybe they'll get within range of me. And I moved, and Owens, I walked probably a couple 100 yards toward him, and I think one of the cows saw me and kind of stood up, which caused everyone to stand up a little bit, and then Owen got his shot off, but the other ones ran off. They like left the mountain range from our area, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
I think we all got super good bulls though. I think we're all pretty happy with it.
oh yeah, yeah.
And just amazing stocks on probably all of them.
I couldn't ask for anything more on mine. I mean, we did a good stock on mine. We were stalking up towards them, and then something spooked them. Might have been us. They started running through what we're calling the bear brush. Couldn't get a shot.
Ran down nearly to camp.
Ran down nearly to camp, and they crossed over, and they were all there was like 8 good bulls in there.
Yep.
And there was one that I thought was just a beaut, and then he kind of separated from him a little bit, and I got a good shot opportunity, and he was kind of in a swamp, which that kind of sucked, you know. We gutted him in the swamp and then pulled him out to a little bit of drier ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lesson I'm learning on caribou hunting. I'm coming from, public land combat style elk hunting, where if you don't shoot a legal bull, you may not see another one, and you have to go higher and deeper and harder than everybody else. You don't have to do that right here. You didn't have to yesterday anyway. I could have sat in camp in my Helinox chair and probably shot a bigger bull than I ended up shooting. And the one that I shot was 1.5 miles from camp, and I had to pack him back here by myself yesterday because everybody shot.
Yeah.
I was the first to shoot, and I was like, okay, I've got help at camp. Owen's tagged out, and Kevin, Jeff may be back there. We can get this done. Then I started hearing shots. I'm like, okay, there goes Jeff. He's got his own to work on now. Hear more shots. Oh.
Looks like I'm out here solo.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm a long way from camp.
We lucked out. We did 4 in what, 24 hours?
Yeah.
4 bulls.
Yeah. And I just got back to camp with mine, and Jeff was like 5 minutes behind
with the first load.
with his, and then he used some more Angie to bribe Owen to go help him, and then I think Owen hit the more Angie a little too hard.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I may have been delirious inside this tent at one point. I don't know.
We got a little greedy with the whiskey last night. So this trip there was so many logistics. Getting here, getting vehicles, getting a place to stay for a day.
And it's still not done.
And the logistics still aren't done. And it was in a way hard. I thought it was a little hard to plan for because I didn't know if we were going to be on top in wind or down bottom and have bugs to worry about. And so I brought some gear for every environment, and in fact it changed the last moment. I mean, the day before we said, well, we kind of think we want a ridge top.
Yep.
And our transporter said, you know, there's a good kind of creek bottom camp available.
Yep.
And I think you guys would be good there. And so gear wise, let's kind of do a verbal pack dump.
Yeah.
What's been really good this as a group? What do you wish you would have brought? What are you so happy you brought? We'll start with you, Mr. Physical Therapist.
You know, I'm probably the least accomplished rifleman here. I do a lot of shotgunning back home. I don't shoot a rifle a lot. And this is such big country. You know, it would work in some places here, and then some places it wouldn't. But I think I would go with a bipod if I came back.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I think I may look at that. I've never used one, but I really like the one you've got where the rifle can tilt back and forth.
Yeah.
And you've got the extendable legs. You've got some
and I
stuff
used
there.
that tilt thing because I was on the side of a hill, and I shot mine at 325. I used all the gadgets because I turned my turret to 325. Didn't go all old school holding over or anything. That was all a thing of the past for me, and used the tilting, and it worked out.
I think as a group, we probably would have been interested in having some walkie-talkies once everybody starts to get a little bit separated. You don't know who's got what.
Yeah, walkie-talkies would have been nice, and I didn't have your guys' DeLorme numbers. I had you guys' phone numbers.
I texted your wife and got your DeLorme number, and then I sent a message to it, but I had to have your at inreach.garmin or whatever address to be able to send you a message. So that's something that I would recommend is everyone, if you've got multiple DeLormes or Garmin now, inReach, if you got multiple inReaches, then get all the communication stuff figured out before you're here, because we didn't do that. It wasn't catastrophic, but it would have been handy.
I know. Owen and I didn't even know if you got something. We assumed you were gone so long. But one other thing, you had the only bone saw.
Yeah.
And I was really wanting a bone saw. And
I'm really glad I brought that. I don't normally take it on backpack elk hunts because I try to go so light.
Yep.
But and I'm boning out. But with these caribou, it's so easy to quarter them and just pop the legs off with a saw that I think mine's like 10 ounces or something. It worked out really well.
Yeah. I do wish I would have brought my big spotter. And I know we were almost kind of like, nah, to spotters. We didn't really need them to see animals, but spotters sure were nice when they would get bedded or to pick apart, like nice bull and really good bull, you know.
And you know, they help to get us excited too. You see some really nice bulls, and it gives you a good indication of what's in the area.
Yeah.
It really does.
I think they were almost invaluable in this country.
Yep.
And
I'd have brought a bigger one.
Yeah. And you know, one thing I had read or been told was that this time of year, and we're kind of early in the caribou season, that the bulls would be up high.
Yeah.
And that held true.
The big bulls were up real high.
Other than the biggest bull taken on the trip, which Kevin got, 300 yards from camp down in a flat. But something had
He was up high.
He was up high, and he got spooked and came down and was going across.
But that group of bulls, and then that one that came through by camp on our fly-in day, those are really the only ones we've seen down low.
Yeah.
And they've been up high, and those spotters, they were really helpful in finding a good one, and I want to go after that one.
Although Owen and I did get surrounded by a herd of cows at camp yesterday. They came running, And then they split up around us, and we were like, are they going to take out their revenge here?
Yeah.
or what? Like, hey, you killed our Mufasa. We were on the fence, and to being super straight here, I mean, we were on the fence about bringing a hot tent. You've never experienced a hot tent, and so you probably were less excited about bringing a hot tent than the rest of us. So we brought about as light and as small a hot tent as we could as a just in case, and I'm really glad we brought the hot tent, even though it was a real pain in the ass to get our first fire going, because it's probably been raining the better part of like 10 days.
Yeah. Everything's soaked.
Yeah.
But once we got that first one going, we could dry some wood. We actually piled wood on top of the stove and heated it, and you know, piled wood around the stove, which I don't recommend you do that unattended, because we did charcoal a little bit on top of the stove. But once we got some dried out and had it here in the tent for a couple of days, then you can start building a stockpile. But man, that stove was really nice.
Yep.
It did.
Day before yesterday, the first day that we could hunt, it was probably 40 degrees and it rained almost all day. And we were out in it, and I mean, gaiters and full rain gear and everything, but you come back and you're just soaked.
And it was windy.
It was just cold.
Yeah, and
cold.
And we practically had to go through the swamp to get up to the higher hillsides.
Yeah. In
every direction.
And going through this brush, I think that, I don't know what that stuff is, but it's in the birch family is what my Seek app told me. Some of that stuff's chest high, some of it's knee high, and all of it was soaking wet. Every bit of it. So that's one thing on my gear that I would change for next time if I get to come back is I'm wearing Scarpa light hikers, and they are very waterproof until water comes in your leg and goes down into them.
Yep.
At that point, they're not waterproof anymore. And I was wearing Outdoor Research crocodile gaiters and rain pants over those, and I still got water in my boots, and I'm 99% sure it wasn't all sweat.
Maybe you peed your pants.
I don't think I did. I'm not that lazy.
Yeah, I learned a valuable.
But I would probably do something different here. I did get my socks dried out. I've got waterproof socks on, so my feet aren't wet, but my toes have been almost numb for a couple of days now, and that gets old.
Yep.
I tell you what, I could justify my waders pretty easily on this trip.
Oh,
because you end up with rain pants, waterproof socks, a couple pairs of waterproof socks, and stuff, and the waders are kind of a one
does it all.
One thing ticket.
The only problem with the waders is the expense. Like I'm wearing Marmot Precip rain gear, which is not cheap, but it's also not expensive. And I look at that like a consumable. Like busting this brush all day, you're going to wear those out.
Yep.
You're going to put holes in them, and with those, you know, less expensive rain pants, I'll just tenacious tape them until they're completely ragged and then replace them. But with waders, I mean, if you've got a nice set of breathable salmon or trout fishing waders that are $400 or $500, I'd have a hard time busting brush with them all day.
I think mine were $299, but they're 24 ounces.
Yeah,
only.
That's pretty light.
They're pretty light. I think Owen's are a little bit heavier, but your waders were around 200, right?
Yeah, 200, and lots of pockets, and features like that. So.
Yeah, and those pockets and features definitely were pretty handy. Now, I did use a new piece of gear. We have a few new pieces of gear that we brought. We brought a bear fence, which we didn't use because our tent location was really difficult to get stakes in, and the bear fence.
You'd have to hammer them in. I don't think it would have stood up to that.
Yeah. I don't think those fiberglass rods were gonna take. We tried to get it in, and we were like, "This is gonna be. We're gonna have to get big rocks and start pounding. So we.
You know, I've put up electric fence, a lot of electric fence, and you can use those fiberglass rods, but they make a thing that goes over the top of them, and then you hammer that. So it's just the diameter of the fiberglass, and you end up not splitting the end of it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could use something like that and then hit it with a rock, but
That would be nice.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's some things to kind of look at on that. This is a lightweight one. I know there's some at feed stores. I think probably if you built one up at a feed store, it's probably a little heavier, but you probably have a little bigger shock to them, and you have a little bit more modularity in what your dimensions and stuff like that are.
The logistics of getting in here on the Super Cub, we were limited to 50 pounds of gear, and then us plus everything we were wearing had to be less than 280 pounds. So all of us are well under 280 pounds with everything that we were wearing, but it did force you to make some gear choices. And
Oh yeah.
you know, I brought a lot of camera gear, a lot of batteries. I've not used all of those batteries. You know, I probably could have picked up a few extra things. One luxury, what I consider a luxury that I did bring, was my little insulated seat, which is not heavy, but also a Helinox chair. And if you put this little insulated seat in that Helinox chair, it felt like you were sitting in a recliner at home, especially when you're tired. So I'm really glad.
You must not have that good of furniture.
Well, it's better than this. It's better than this rock that I'm sitting on currently. That's getting kind of uncomfortable.
I didn't think your Helinox reminded me of my mother-in-law's Lazy Boy at all.
I think it's relative to where you are.
Yeah.
It's a nice comfort out here.
You know,
It is.
I do
It really
wish
is out here.
I do wish I would have brought a foam sit pad.
Yep.
And
Everything's wet.
I had a full-on foam mat, pad that I was going to bring, and I was planning to kind of use it as a sit pad and carry it, but it was one of those things that got cut, and to get under 50, it was like this or whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, a couple swigs of whiskey is kind of fun every night.
Yep.
And so it didn't make the cut. But if I would have, and it's a nice pad, it's the one by Nemo. But if it had been like a Z-Lite, like I have at home, I would have just bastardized it into a couple squares for sitting on. But I do like the Nemo one to even sleep on, so I didn't want to bastardize it. I did bring some new to me rangefinder binoculars. I thought that those things were pretty cool. I wish they had I wish the range button was raised a little bit so you could feel it with your finger, because I have to kind of put my finger in that spot. Wish I would have brought a spare battery for it, because I noticed my battery's kind of low on it. But I was very pleased with those.
Yep.
It just made things really easy.
That's another thing I'm going to take a hard look at. I've read a bunch of reviews on those. I've looked at the Zeiss range-finding binoculars, and just haven't upgraded to those yet. I've got Swarovski ELs now, and those are fantastic glass. I can see. I was able to spot a lot of caribou that you guys couldn't see over the course of the trip, and they worked really well. But the range-finding binoculars, you can range one ridge and then range the ridge behind that where the caribou are, and figure out if you're going to get into range of them by looking at different spots. And it's just super handy to be able to do that. You can range stuff at 3/4 of a mile or a mile away and think, okay, that's farther than I want to go, because everything up here is farther than it looks.
Yep.
We'll look at something and think it's 200 yards, and it's more like 350. It's just vast.
Yep.
Yeah. What else? I probably brought too many clothes.
Yep. At least for how long we're staying.
Yeah, I could have probably pared down my clothes a little bit. My knives, my kill kit, all that stuff was pretty much spot on.
Yep. Except for the saw.
Yeah, except for the saw, which I left because It was one of the things we had things thrown out on the yard.
You know, we were you know, plan all these things and then things work out different so often. We had talked so much about hunting together, but then at the end of the day, you know, we ended up split apart a lot.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe everybody having a little saw, that would have been handy.
Yeah. Yeah, we split up more than we thought we were going to. You know, we thought we were going to really stick to 2s or all 4, but you guys were hunting solo. Me and Owen were together, but even when we were together, you did your stalk on your own and stuff like that.
Separate a bit.
Yeah, we separated a bit, stuff like that. Wow, it's starting to rain.
Yeah, it
Again.
Well, I hope we don't get sucked in.
This is kind of changing subjects, but from a guy who has never experienced a hot tent and a small ultralight camp stove like
Need
this.
to go get the tarp over all the meat.
Did you already do it?
I've done that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think my stuff hanging up is fine, or should I get it in?
Go put it under the tarp. You don't want it wet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we want to pause real quick.
Just run off and you can come back.
Okay.
But anyway, you know, my western experience has been the high country of Colorado. It's pretty dry. If we got precipitation, it was frozen, and so I've been wet a couple times, but moisture was never a big issue. And I've made 5 or 6 trips up there and probably only built about 3 fires. I just don't do it. But here in Alaska, where it is so damp, you know, a few days of this and you get your clothes wet because you're out hunting, whatever, man, this thing would be a game changer.
Yeah.
You know.
If we had the tent selection to do over again, I'd probably want to bring an 8-man and then just put some effort into going and gathering some wood, because it's hard to scrounge wood. But
you know, as expensive as this trip is, you know, and it's funny because the expense to me, it seemed, and I own a gear company, so I mean, and we are testing new products out here. We're sitting in a potential new product here.
yeah,
so I mean, I can call it business expense, gear testing, whatever, real field testing, but still, compared to me just buying a resident elk tag in Colorado, this seems really pricey.
yeah.
But it's also kind of funny, like, you don't think it's that pricey, Jeff, because you come to Colorado and you're paying out of state this, and you're renting llamas, and you're staying in a couple hotels along the way, and so it's more expensive than a Colorado hunt, but it's not that much more expensive.
Yeah, it's not terrible when you look at the things you can do in Alaska and really have a good chance of success, which our transporter has been top-notch and they have an excellent reputation. You know, this is on the more budget-friendly side of things. It's certainly still, you know, it costs, but the service we've gotten from the transporter, and then just the experience of going to Alaska the first time, it's been well worth it to me.
And it's also, and I mean, while as a self-guided hunter, it seems kind of pricey with all the logistics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's probably no more pricey than a guided elk hunt in Colorado, probably less.
Less than a lot of them.
And I think we could easily justify the extra gear load and to bring an 8-man and bring some firewood with it. You know what I mean? And bring some camp chairs. Now we've had good food. That we had.
You know, but all in all, I think we've had a really comfortable camp. I've not been uncomfortable in the least.
I would have brought my puffy pants, which I left in my suitcase, and if I had it to do over again, I'd probably bring my tall boots with some insulation in them. And I think I don't know, but I may look at some different pants, see if I can find something with some waterproof patches or water resistant patches on the knees and the seat. Because on my stalk yesterday, I wasn't wearing my rain pants, and crawling across that tussocky wet moss, my gloves got soaked from touching the ground and my knees got completely soaked, and that was above my gaiters. So then the moisture goes down your leg underneath your gaiters straight into your shoes.
Yeah, I think the best rain pants you can buy, just plan on being in them, you know, and not getting out of them. And
well, I think it's key to note that Alaska's wet. It's either raining or the ground is soaked, and you're going to get wet, one way or the other. And you know, we've got 4 caribou out here. Luckily, we've got a tarp that we can put over that meat. You need that because you don't want the meat to get wet. But we've also got a little cook area up here that we covered with a Dyneema DST, and that has worked out really well. We've got that propped up with trekking poles, and the first day that we were hunting, you know, we all kind of crowded under there to cook and be able to glass at the same time what we could see below the fog. So that glassing tarp from camp was really nice. I think I might just look into rain pants to wear full time in Alaska, because it just seems like you're going through wet brush, crawling on wet moss, sitting on wet ground all the time.
that's kind of what I think. I would start with the Google term of best rain pants for hunting. You know, and I would probably start looking at the main players, the main high-end players, and filter down into some of the mid-range players and leave it at that. And you know, and Owen, you know, he brought up a good point with his rain pants. He's got some First Light ones, they look pretty nice, but his also, all his pockets are gone when he puts on the rain pants. So you have to think about...
They don't have pass-throughs?
No.
You know, I'll throw in the other side of that equation. And I came up here with some Gen 3 extreme cold weather system Army surplus rain gear. Mm-hmm. And the camo pattern was not perfect for this, but they make some in a Marpat that would really be good. And I've got to say that I stayed dry, just completely dry.
Good.
Even crawling. And as a budget option, you know, it might be worth considering. This is my second pair. My first pair is still working fine, but because I was going through Alaska and yada yada yada, you know, it's wet, and I just got another set. But I've had good success with both sets of that type of rain gear. Now it's new, it's not used, but you can buy new, you know, at different places. They do have pass-through pockets, so you can reach your pockets.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, gear dump part, some things I didn't use. I didn't use the citric acid. Bugs haven't been too big a problem.
Yeah, you know, that was one thing. I had envisioned this trip being warmer.
Yeah.
But it's been cooler and windier, and bugs have not been an issue at all.
Right.
Yeah. I did have a few flies that I saw on my meat yesterday when I hung it, but it was not a problem at all.
No.
Right.
That's another thing that surprised me. Looking at the weather forecast for when we left, it was like 60s for the highs and 40 for the lows. And then we get here, and the first day it may be 40, but it's blowing 20 miles an hour and raining.
Yep.
It's been cold the whole trip, and the forecast has changed. You know, we woke up with frozen water bottles this morning. It's been a lot colder than I expected it to be.
It's been Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably bring more warm gear. You know, there isn't, I mean, the only thing I can say is the bear fence really couldn't use. I really wish I had my bigger spotter, and I really wish I had brought a bone saw. And I really wish I would have either brought my waders and my wading boots, because I mean, that's made for these boggy things, you know. Or that I would have brought some really good rain pants. Yeah.
The only thing I really wish I had brought or exchanged is I wish I swapped out the Chacos for Crocs, because it just doesn't work, and the Chacos are quite a bit heavier, although I love them. Probably even more layers somehow. Coming from 100 degrees every day to this was rough for me.
Yeah.
I don't think this whole trip I've been in a t-shirt. Even before, you know, when we were down on the Kenai.
You live in a hot, dry desert.
Yep. Hot, dry.
Hot and dry desert, and now you're in a very cold, very wet place.
All right,
It's about as opposite as you
somebody
can
took
get.
the Uno reverse card to my living situation. And then definitely wish, I've always hunted without binos, so I wish I had brought some binos. Probably get in the range finding bino category there. I usually just hunt with a rangefinder.
Scope covers.
Scope covers.
Your objective filled up with water.
Yep, that would have been.
You could have drank out of it.
So we took a possible pouch and shoved it over it, and it worked out. And then
You wish bipod.
Yeah, I must experiment with that.
I wish I'd have brought foam seat as
oh
well.
yeah, I wish I would have swapped
I'll say
out.
the trekking. What's that trekking pole adapter that we've got to turn them into shooting sticks?
Oh.
I forget what that thing's called. We'll have to leave that in the description, but I've got this adapter that you mount on your trekking poles where they go together, and then you can cross them and turn your trekking poles into real shooting sticks. And that has worked out really well on my last elk hunt and on this hunt. I used that and got in prone position, shot my bull at 327, and it was just as solid as shooting off of a bipod connected to the rifle. I've been really happy with that little thing. It's a little plastic thing that just bolts on.
327, 325, 290.
And 25.
137.
137.
I said the stalk was the good part.
Yeah.
I probably would have taken a Helinox and a foam pad if I would have swapped out Chacos a little less.
I wish I'd brought some Crocs and some
Yeah.
more socks
Yeah.
and bigger boots.
Things I am happy for is those waterproof socks that you and I got. That has been great, because where water wants to get in, it'll get in.
These super cheap Glacier Gloves were really a lifesaver. Your hands get wet in them, but your hands don't freeze when they're wet in them. They're super cheap, so I brought 2 pairs of gloves, one for dry, one for wet. These are my wet pair. And I think that system worked out pretty well.
We are in a good water location. We probably could have saved a little weight on the filter there.
Yeah.
But
we didn't know where we were going to get dropped off at.
yeah.
Better have easy water than no water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot else to add to this.
No.
Hope we get out today. Seems like the weather's moving in.
Yeah.
It was really nice this morning.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We don't know whether to pack up, start tearing down camp, or prepare for another night or 2 or 3 if we get weathered in.
And we've ate our good food. We had good. I had some Ovaese eggs, and we had that with tenderloin
Man,
this
that was
morning.
good.
And some bacon from you.
Yeah.
And last night we had tenderloin with
Mashed
some
potatoes.
bone marrow,
Boletes.
and boletes and blueberries and some whiskey.
That was delicious. That sauce was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was real good.
mixed in.
And you know, hunger is a really good seasoning.
Yeah.
That was one of Skirka's quotes. I think hunger is the best seasoning. So we were hungry, and that makes things taste good. But that tenderloin is really delicious.
Yeah, that was legitimately good though.
Yeah.
It was very good.
And I'll add this: we did fry up a little caribou fat just to see what it was going to be like, and it is delicious. So anybody going on your first caribou hunt, try to save all of that you can. It's not like a whitetail or mule deer where, you know, the fat becomes really gamey. and can be sort of off-putting, especially on whitetail. But the caribou fat's delicious.
Yeah.
It renders pretty well. I was able to render that down in my jet boil and then pour a bunch of eggs and cook, cut up chunks of bacon in there, and that was good.
So it looks like I'm going to take it. We're going to get out of here.
Okay.
So we'll see. But it'll probably be a couple hours.
Okay.
They have some people to drop off.
Okay.
And it looks like they're planning to head north here in a bit.
Okay.
So, I'll see what all we need to do. Like, should we pet camp, stuff like that, or should we hold off a little bit till?
I think we should pack everything but the tents, because we can pull the tents down like that.
Yeah.
If everything is packed, and then if we don't get out, well, you've still got your dry ground there.
Yeah. I'm into that.
I would say that's fine. Leave the tarp up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way we've got dry ground. It's not getting rained on, and you know, it just takes us 20 minutes to unpack everything and sleep another night if we have to.
That would hurt the feelings a little bit.
I was so tired last night.
Oh, me too.
I was exhausted.
I was a little more than just tired.
And
Yeah, you were Cindy Lou Loopy.
yeah, he was. He self-medicated himself to sleep.
Well, he had a little bit too much more Angie.
Yeah.
So part of the thinking on the tent choices was that, you know, we're all men and we tend to snore, so we were going to bring solo tents. But then we pitched those tents right next to each other, so I wake up in the middle of the night listening to Kevin.
Yep.
It took me a minute to figure out if it was, you know, a grizzly bear ravaging camp, or if it was Kevin. I finally decided it was Kevin, and if it was a bear, he could just have me. I was so tired.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, it's better than... I've slept right next to Kevin. I know how bad it can be if you're that close. So I'll take my 10 feet over my 1 foot.
There's been no spooning, at least.
That's been nice. That's been nice.
I've talked to some people. I think Lee, who works for us, said he was on a trip with someone in a Cimarron and woke up and found himself being spooned.
I haven't. Too much out in the woods.
Lee is very comfortable.
He is.
He's very sweet.
He is.
Oh, were you the spooner?
No, I wasn't. It wasn't me. Lee's a good guy.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I think this is the SO crew signing off with our field cast. Field cast caribou hunt, gear talk, deep dive, sneak peeks.
Thanks for
Complete
tuning
with
in.
our physical therapist. And we're looking for a chiropractor to come along on the next trip.
My back. My back's killing me.
Maybe we'll have to bring one of those Theraguns. Extra gear load. We have all of our old person gear, maybe a heating pad.
I tell you, y'all have been pretty maintenance free this trip. Owen was showing some signs of wear yesterday, but I can kind of see some signs, you know, they're beginning to breaking down a little bit. So.
Well, thanks for tuning in.